Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about defending against the King's Gambit. This time I'll show you a defence that I've been interested in for a long while. E takes f4 and knight to f3. Of course white won't want to, well they might want to play d4, but they can't because of queen to h4 check and that's pretty terrible. So knight f3 first by white, and now bishop to e7, Cunningham's Defence. Not a refutation, but white just needs to be careful. The big main lines, and I say they're big main lines, they're big because they're important, they're big because there's a lot of theory about them, which is why I'm not really recommending them. If you get a bit suspicious of the Cunningham Defence, I think you should know that black's in very good shape in the big main lines with g5 hanging onto the pawn, and now either bishop c4, bishop g7, castles and d6, the Hanstein variation, or after g5 h4 the Kieseritzky Gambit, g4, knight e5, knight f6, and if bishop c4, d5, bishop d6, knight h5, castles, and if rook white throws the rook in. I mean, this is the main line of theory, and yeah, white's got an attack, probably not good enough, but I don't. I mean, there's just lots and lots of theory on that. I don't think you should get involved with it. The other defence is Bobby Fischer's defence. He lost a painful game to Boris Spassky in the King's Gambit, and came up with this high-class waiting move, as he called it. And now if bishop to c4, h6, d5, g5, and bishop g7 gets us into a better version of the line we've just looked at. And if d4, there's quite a nice variation, g5, and now if h4, g4, and white doesn't have the same opportunities to advance in this position. In the Kieseritzky Gambit they come to e5, but that square's not so good right now. And moving it to g5, it can't get anywhere else, so it's going to be lost. So white usually retreats with knight to g1. Very funny position. It looks like both sides have forgotten how to move pawns. But queen f6, f5, fine for black. Lots of theory though, so let's go back to the Cunningham. And well, the original idea of the defence was if white plays something like knight to c3, well, we'll play something like bishop to h4 check. We've seen how the queen check there is awkward for white. But then we can play a check, but it's, you know, I don't know who it's most awkward for really. Some recent games suggest that white might be able to fiddle an advantage here somewhere after king e2 and c6, d4, d5, queen d2 is the fancy move now, and takes bishop e7, and the queen's misplaced and the king's misplaced by white. Both of the royal couple have moved forward, one in front of the bishops, but black's still quite a way behind in development, and I'm not sure you can hang on to that pawn on f4 for much longer. So that's the line if you like it. But knight c3, I think just knight f6, I think it gives about an equal game, and black should be fine. If d4, d5, and now if takes and takes, then bishop d3, knight c6 and bishop g4, you know, you're just developing, you're fine here. If bishop c4, a little bit more aggressive, bishop e6 should be fine. Takes and castles is equal. Bishop queen e2 on move 8 instead. Takes on c3, takes on c4, and now actually we will play our bishop check. King to d1 and castles, takes the bishop, knight c6, and again I think this is just equal. White's a little bit disorganised, but any attack by queen b5, queen c8, and I think black's fine. If instead after d4, d5, bishop d3, take a couple of times on e4, and now bishop to d6, an important move in our line, defending the f pawn, and if castles, knight d7, queen d6, h6, moving the h pawn out of trouble and denying access to the the g5 point. And now if c4 by white, just c6, and I think black may even have a little advantage here. There's not a, I don't see how white's going to get that pawn back comfortably. So that's the perhaps the old main line with knight to c6, but these days mostly white plays bishop c4 on move 3 after after bishop e7. We'll play bishop to c4, and now again the original idea may have been to play the check, but I don't think that's quite so good. So we're going to play knight f6 again. Nice and easy to remember. And now we're ready to castle, which we so rarely do in the King's Gambit. Now a couple of ways for white to go wrong here, I think, which is one of the reasons I like this defence. If I haven't seen it before, d3, d5 by black and you're good. And even better, knight c3, idea from the two knights defence, just take it. Knight takes e4, with the idea if white takes, then d5, and I think you can claim an equal game here. So actually, what on earth is white going to do if not d3 after knight f6? Well, can't defend it, can't capture the attacker, can't block the defence because it's a knight, so we're going to have to move it. A, B, C, D, avoid, block, capture, defend. So we're going to avoid the move with e5. And now black's idea is knight to g4. A little bit of pressure on the pawn, but mainly the idea is that white can't play here h3 because of bishop g4. This is just awful. King in, knight f2 takes, knight g3. I mean, this is just winning for black. Don't even bother with that. So instead of that, white should play something else on move 6. So instead of h3, white can try, what can he try? Well, knight to c3 is okay, and now d6, inviting an exchange. If they take, you take with the queen. d4 takes, take the queen, and bishop e6, and this is just equal. I mean, it's not very interesting, but it is equal. So instead on move 6, instead of knight to c3, well, I think the best two moves here are castles and d4, and d4 is better. I'll see if I can show you why. If castles and then castles, black can play d4, d5, he takes d6 en passant, bishop takes d6, and again we've got this irritating defence of the pawn. If black hasn't castled by now, a move like queen e2 check is a little bit awkward for black. It's not clear how black equalises in the other line with without castling, but having castled, this is absolutely fine for black. So castles, and white needs something else than d4, d5. H3 isn't it, because if white doesn't play a do nothing move, then d5. And now if e takes d6, queen takes d6, and you're threatening queen to c4, 5 check. So d5, bishop to b3, and now c5, with the same sorts of ideas of chasing the bishop. If takes on g4, c4, bishop a4, b5, and now if queen takes, queen b6 check, and this is black's doing well. Black's doing very well. So I think castles probably isn't as good as d4 in this position for white. So after e5, knight g4, d4 for white, and now we'll still play d5, and after takes on d6, we're going to take with the queen, because as I say, if bishop takes, then queen e2 check. This is not as easy, I think, for black to equalise. So queen takes d6, and now knight to c3 is the natural move for white. I mean, you can castle here and play bishop e6, but let's play bishop e6 here straight away. And now white won't want to exchange. Bishop to d3. Plenty of moves to think about here. I mean, knight c6 is fine. Knight b5, queen d7. Now white can capture back on f4, but rook c8 is about equal. I mean, one of the ideas of this line actually is, having got the knight to g4, what you're going to do with it. Knight e3 is likely to pick up the two bishops at some point. Queen e2, knight c6, takes. Castle's long by white, and I think knight b4 hitting the bishop, hitting the other bishop. Rook fe1, rook he1 rather, and castle's long by white, black as well as white. There's nothing to be afraid of here for black. I think this is comfortably this is a comfortable game for black in the King's Gambit, and I think you can play with Cunningham Defence with a lot of confidence. I hope you enjoyed that. Catch you next time.